Wrapping up our ACC preview with the Stanford Cardinal. And Dalton, Troy Taylor's first year as a head coach kind of ended the same as the last two for Stanford, with just a 3-9 record, the same as they had in the previous two seasons. They've now had their worst 3-year stretch since 1958 to 1960. It has been a brutal 3 years for the Cardinal over the last 3 years. But now they're going to try to rebound in a new conference, moving over from the Pac-12 to the ACC. And they have an absolute superstar at receiver in Elic Ayomanor that we actually interviewed, and the interview is coming out very soon as well. But that is probably their biggest strength of the team right now, is Ayomanor comes back for another year. He's one of the best receivers in the country.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, he's the one thing that gives you hope. He had an offensive line that really struggled, a quarterback that really struggled behind it, and a defense. I think they were one of the lowest graded defenses in the Power 5. Ayomanor is the reason to watch this team. He's one of the top 10 receivers in the country. We saw what he did to Travis Hunter in the second half against Colorado. Put up some good reps against a probable first-round pick in Ben Morrison. This is the one guy that gives Stanford the hope for their offense. You know, they need to pass protect better, but even when they don't, Ayomanor still put up a 1,000-yard season off of a bad knee injury in 2022. So he's really the light at the end of the tunnel for Stanford here in their offense.
He absolutely is. The weakness, though, is the other side of the ball everywhere. This defense, quite literally, was the worst defense in the country last year. Allowed .21 average expected points per play. That was the worst of any school in the country. Among Power 5 schools, they had the lowest defensive grade, worst run defense grade, and tied for the lowest pass rushing grade and the third worst coverage grade. So the best thing they did last year was coverage, and they were the third worst in the Power 5 at that, too. So it was a big issue defensively, and kind of remains the same in 2024. Only brought in one transfer that's projected to start on defense this upcoming year. So one of the worst, if not the worst defense in America last year, and it looks like the same defense as it was last year as well, Don. So I'm a little bit worried about that defense right now, but tell me more about Ashton Daniels, their quarterback right now.
So he's kind of a tough evaluation because you can tell, like, he's got tools. He's an athletic player. He can make throws on the move. He's got a good arm. Like, you know, we talk about Ayomanor with the Colorado game. Well, Daniels was the one making the throws, too. He was really good in the second half of that game, too, right? You can tell there's moments where it's like, okay, this guy's kind of got it. But then there's stretches where it's like you're just turning the ball over too much. He's had 20 turnover-worthy plays last year, second most in the Pac-12. And, you know, part of the problem is he was among quarterbacks with 300 dropbacks last year, Max. He was under more pressure than any of them. I believe it was close to 46% of the time he was under pressure. It's just untenable. Like, it doesn't matter how talented a guy is or how much athletic ability or how much improvisational skills. When you're under pressure that often, you're just not going to succeed, right? And again, he does have to clean up the ball security. He does have talent, but the combination of him just not being as risk averse and this offensive line in front of him just not blocking. We're not used to this. We were used to for years and years Stanford having elite offensive lines, and right now they don't. So Daniels, he's a tough evaluation. He's definitely talented. He definitely just does not have the full supporting cast, especially in front of him, to help him produce. So it's really tough. Unless this offensive line gets significantly better, he's going to continue to be hard to evaluate, other than, look, he does need under pressure to take better care of the football just to give his team a chance to win.
Yeah. But one guy you can't rely on, Dalton, is Elic Ayomanor, Mapletron, as they call him, the Canadian star coming in from there, and now he's a star in the Pac-12. In the Big 12, ACC, excuse me, because now Stanford's moving over. Suffered a torn ACL, MCL, and meniscus in 2022, causing him to miss all of his true freshman season. But this past year, man, was a breakout star for the Cardinal. 1,022 receiving yards that were fifth among returning Power 5 receivers. A bigger receiver at 6'2", 14 contested catches, were tied for fourth among Power 5 pass catchers as well. And you got to remember, once again, he was basically by himself on that offense, and he still put up big numbers for them as well. Again, we have an interview with him coming out very, very soon. He is an awesome, awesome kid, dude. He's got a really good head on his shoulders. Obviously, as a Stanford student, you have to have that. But I'm really excited for him to be as a redshirt sophomore this year. Man, he's a really good player and a really good person as well. So love Elic Ayomanor. Actually, Dalton and I played against my brother last night in EA College Football 25. Again, he was Colorado. I was Stanford. He did not put up 294 yards like he did in the Colorado game in real life, but he did put up a lot of good stats. I was using him every single play against him. And talking about the Colorado game, man, 0 catches in the first half for 0 yards. Second half, 13 catches, 294 yards, and 3 touchdowns. It is one of the most incredible second halves I've ever seen. It was pure Pac-12 after dark. It was like 2 a.m. watching that. I remember last year. Program record, almost 300 yards, all in the second half, man. That is absolutely ridiculous for Elic Ayomanor. And again, Travis Hunter was guarding him on a lot of those plays. I think 7 of his catches and 2 of his touchdowns were on Travis Hunter, including one where he caught the ball on Travis Hunter's helmet in overtime, too. So he is a really, really fun player, man, and one of the few fun players, unfortunately, that the Stanford Cardinal have this upcoming season.
Yeah, I mean, look, and they have a lot to fix on this defense, and a guy who faces Ayomanor every day in practice is cornerback Colin Wright. Now, look, he's feisty and a lot feistier than you see from most outside corners. We think about a lot of times slot corners are the better run defenders. Well, Colin Wright put up a 77.5 run defense grade last year to go along with a 71.8 coverage grade. So they need more players like Colin Wright just throughout their defense, just dogs, just physical guys who want to get in here and hit people, because they're just too often with the rest of their defense where it's just not as physical as we're used to seeing Stanford in past years, right? Like, even, back in the days of David Shaw, when they could still run it down your throat and stop the run and just cause problems with their size. But Colin Wright brings it from the outside. I'm sure he's getting better every day in practicing against a guy like Ayomanor. So this is a guy they can build around in their secondary while they figure out the rest of their defense, especially up front.
Yeah, definitely. So, Dalton, 3 straight years with a 3-9 record for Stanford. Again, they haven't had a 3-year stretch that bad since the 1950s, right? Late 1950s and early 1960s. Are we expecting another one? Right now, their win total is 3.5 on FanDuel. Are we expecting that, or what should we expect from Stanford in their first year in the ACC?
I think I expect something close to that. I just worry about teams with poor offensive lines like this. If they don't get significantly better up front, both in the run game and especially in pass protection, you just cannot have your quarterback under pressure 46% of the time. You will not win ball games like that. There are teams that get by 38, 40%, which is still pretty high. But when you start creeping towards your quarterback being under pressure for half the plays, it's a recipe for a disaster. So need significant improvement there. And then obviously you mentioned their defense, but I think there is still a lot to worry about here despite the presence. Again, I think Daniels has talent. I do think they have a starting caliber quarterback. Ayomanor's obviously extremely talented, but they need more than that to support those two guys to win more games.
Yeah, I'm worried about them, man. I mean, they really had one of maybe the worst defense in the country last year, and it looks like once again a really bad defense. And again, outside of Ayomanor offensively, they didn't have much going for them offensively either. So, yeah, I'm worried. And you look at that schedule. I mean, they play pretty relatively hard. Yeah, actually the second hardest schedule in the ACC, 25th hardest in the country, right? So they play TCU. They play Syracuse, they play Clemson, they play Vatech, they play Notre Dame, they play SMU, they play NC State, they play Louisville. They ran out the year with San Jose State as well. So, yeah, I'm a little worried about this Stanford Cardinal team once again. And I think it's been 3 straight 3-9 seasons. I think we could see another one for Stanford upcoming season, which is unfortunate, but I just think that's what's going to happen in their first year in the ACC. That's what we got for our final preview of the Atlantic Coast Conference. That is the Stanford Cardinal. Hey, thanks for watching the PFF College Football Show. Before I let you go, though, we have an unbelievable deal for you guys right now. If you use the code CFB25, you get 25% off your PFF Plus annual subscription. We've got the 2024 College Football Preview Guide that you can find over at pff.com, featuring the best players in the country from all 70 Power 5 teams, plus 10 Group of 5 teams that have the best chance at making the college football playoff as well. You can also gain access to NCAA premium stats for historical games, teams, and player tracking dating all the way back to 2014, so the last decade or so of college football. All the stats you can hope for, you can find in PFF Premium as well. Also, you can be the GM of your favorite NFL team with our unbelievable mock draft simulator where you can draft up to 7 rounds of players for your NFL team. And if you want to dominate your fantasy league, you can do that as well using the best fantasy tools on the planet. All of that and more with your PFF Plus annual subscription, which you can find for 25% off right now with the code you can find in the description. Or if you want to go to subscribe.pff.com and use the code CFB25 at checkout. Again, you get 25% off your PFF Plus subscription. This won't last forever, so make sure you take advantage of it right now.